the Ravens played the Browns yesterday, and everyone probably was thinking that maybe going into the fourth or in the fourth, the Ravens had this all locked up. And then you look up and go, holy hell, what the hell happened? Browns kick a game-winning walk-off field goal to steal one in Baltimore, 33-31. And guys, where do we even start with this? Because there's so many different angles that we can go out and approach this, Brad.
Yeah, so I had put out a tweet, and I actually wanted to make sure that I had the right one pulled up. Yeah, so 6 losses with a double-digit lead since the start of 2022. 9 losses with 7-point lead in the fourth quarter since the start of 21. That's the most in the NFL. 11 losses when leading entering the fourth quarter starting from 2021. That is also the most in the NFL. And I got to say, folks, I don't know what the hell is going on. It is that can't be a coincidence, one. And I have to say, like, as much as we like the defense, something is happening as far as the entire squad on that side of the ball, just like letting off the gas. And I appreciate that Kyle Hamilton actually admitted to that. He's like, it just felt like we didn't keep going. Felt like, we just, let off the gas and kind of like thought that the game was over. And obviously, in the NFL, you just can't do that. So to me, we've talked a lot about Mike McDonald on this show and how much we love him. And there's talk of him being head coach next year. I've hesitated on this because of this fact. And actually, when we had that conversation, I brought this up, and that was two blown games ago. So like for me, it's like, I look back to what happened in Miami last year, with the Bills last year, and now what's going on this year. This is a trend, in my opinion. And it's not just, hey, it's just this one guy. It's not just Lamar Jackson. This feels like a coaching problem. What say you, gentlemen?
After the Odell Beckham Jr. touchdown, is it fair to say everyone's feeling good?
I thought the game was put away.
Right?
And then and after the Gus Edwards touchdown as well. I felt like there were 2 times in that game. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Parker, actually, you might be a guru with something on this. A little scary.
So I'll get to your point soon here, Brad. But I did, before we recorded last week, possibly go from Ravens by 1 million to Browns by 2.
And he nailed it.
Which I'm proud of it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty proud of that. What I'm not proud of is the defensive effort. And I think, back to your point, the coaching staff, not you, Brad. I think the coaching staff is like doing everything they can. I don't think Mike McDonald's a let's game plan through 3 quarters type of guy.
Yeah.
But what I do see, and what I've seen now for 2 years in a row, I mean, really 3 years in a row, is a very young team, a very talented team. We have a lot of talent in all phases of the defense at every level, but a lot of young guys making plays, but for 3.5 quarters.
But doesn't that come down to coaching, though? Isn't it up to the coach, or isn't it the coach's responsibility to motivate them to play all 4 quarters? And like, I guess if I'm the coach and I'm seeing them start to let up, I'm going to be kicking them in the ass for that and be like, what the fuck? Like, this game's not over.
You're not wrong. It's part of their responsibility, but he's on the sideline. They're on the field. This is just from what little I know about Mike, which is a little bit. We play golf a little bit.
Oh, name dropping.
And one thing that he did say to me that I was like, you ever just feel like you're going to blow a team out? In reference to listening to Doc Rivers talk to Bill Belichick, who he went up to him one time before a game and was like, we're about to smoke these fools. And he was like, nah, that's just not my style. Like, I just go in to try to be as prepared as possible. And I don't think that's really I don't think he's getting to where he is as a 34-year-old defensive coordinator by thinking he's going to blow teams out with a young team. So I'm going to put that on the players. And I think, going maybe not by 1 million this week, but I think we come back. I think the Ravens get refocused. I think the defense gets really hyped up for this game. We got a short week. We're back in Beemore, back at the bank, and I think we're gonna give the Bengals hell.
Rock, you even talked about with what some of the players were saying after the game.
Yeah, Justin out of BK spoke at the podium, after the game, and the mindset. I don't know if it was like the mindset that they had it won, but I think the mindset after they went up 14-0 was we shouldn't have lost that game. When Kyle Hamilton, first offensive possession for the Browns right off the bat, picks off Deshaun Watson, sets the tempo. This game was the 1 and 2 defenses in football. The Ravens defense wanted to make a statement. They talked about all week long. They wanted to make their pads do the talking. They wanted to go out there, and this was a statement game for the Ravens defense going up against the team as far as yardage allowed. Like the Browns were the top team. So Ravens were 2, and it didn't look like a great defensive performance early on. It did. They looked like they were getting after it, firing on all cylinders. Keaton Mitchell has that 39-yard touchdown, burns everybody. Shout out to Keaton Mitchell because, undrafted rookie coming in and doing that, what he's done the past 2 weeks, that's something you got to keep an eye on going forward. He needs more touches for sure. I think we all could agree on that, and I think this fan base could agree on that. But you look at the second half possessions for the Browns. They had 3. That's it. Yeah. 3 offensive possessions in the second half. You had that just grueling 17-play, 75-yard drive, took up 10 minutes on the clock. And I feel like that just beat the hell out of the Ravens defensively because the Ravens offense, then they go punt, then you had that James Prochet fumble, touchdown. But even that took up 5 minutes. I don't know if that was enough time going back. I'm not making excuses for the defense, but they didn't get a lot of time to rest after that 10-minute drive.
Deshaun Watson was 14 for 14 second half.
He was incredible. And they talked about kind of keeping him in that front door, not letting him out of the house, basically. Yeah. I think that was the analogy they used. They were not able to contain him. The one I can think of, that last possession of the game, that 16-yard pickup that really set them up, kind of crossed the middle of the field and put them in decent position to kick that field goal going forward. That's one that comes to mind. But you go in the second half, the Browns go touchdown, that 17-play, 75-yard drive, touchdown, 6-play, 75-yard drives, interception, touchdown. Their offense didn't even step foot on the floor. And then 12-play, 58-yard drive to kick the game-winning field goal. So those were the possessions offensively for the Browns. The Ravens defense in the second half simply needs to be better because, guys, this was the trend of last season. Yeah. Blown second half leads. The Ravens team this season, they don't want to do it. Patrick Queen said something on Instagram afterwards, Matt BK. It's like, this is not the standard for the Ravens defensively. It's really not.
It shouldn't be, but it's kind of, to Brad's point, it has become. And that's what I think's the most annoying part is because we all sit here and we know this is such a dominant group. And then you have slip-ups like yesterday, and nothing they can do about the Lamar interception. That happens.
It was a freak, and that was a fluke thing too. Like it wasn't this is Lamar's fault. It was a batted ball that went up in the air and just it ended up being that the other team caught it. And so to your point, I it's not even just like this happened. It would be one thing if the game started out to where the Browns just owned it and it was like maybe some back and forth, both mistakes made on both sides of the ball, and then it was kind of like, oh well, this is just a hard fought loss, but it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, again, we thought we had it in the bag, and then we just can't be confident with a lead going into the fourth quarter, and that's the shame of it all.
The biggest thing that makes me not blame Mike McDonald for yesterday is one, the fact that it felt like at least every other play when Deshaun was passing it, there was 1 or 2 guys who got their hands on him. And he was making stuff happen. And give him credit, he was making something out of nothing in a lot of places. So I don't want to put it on Mike McDowell. Yes, there's things you can do, ways that, you can attempt to adjust. But the Ravens were getting home and just not finishing the play. And that was the big thing. Then you have Oweh gets there, gets the sack. If that ball bounces another way and the Ravens fall in it, we're not having this conversation.
Well, the next play then, Deshaun Watson made an unbelievable throw to Amari Cooper. And if you watch that, Amari's not even turned. Deshaun puts it right on him. And that they're paying Deshaun Watson, even though I wouldn't have given that type of contract. You're paying him to come up in moments like that. And this is probably not going to be a happy thing I'm about to say here. Deshaun Watson outplayed Lamar Jackson yesterday.
He did.
After that start, they got off to the worst start possible. He's like 1 for 9, 2, whatever it was. Deshaun Watson down the stretch. Now, was there more time of possession for the Cleveland Browns? Were they on the field longer? Absolutely, all of that. But the Ravens offense, whether they got out of rhythm because they weren't on the field or whatever it may be, Deshaun Watson was the guy that made the plays down the stretch. And so for the defense, though, to go back to the question, those are moments when you're up and you have a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. That's not on a Lamar Jackson problem. That's on a Baltimore Ravens. I think Dan Orlovsky, we're going to talk about this in a little bit with some video, but if a team that gets up and to put the game away, no better team to do that than the Baltimore Ravens with how they run the football. And they just clearly did not run the football very efficiently down the stretch. And then the defense could not make a stop at the right time. So, and quite frankly, the Cleveland Browns defense was a massive reason why they also stayed in the game, which puts more pressure on the Ravens defense because they got the Ravens offense off the field pretty quickly in the second half. How many? You said 3 possessions in the second half? That's a lot of time for that Ravens defense to constantly be on. And think about, too, the Ravens got gifted some opportunities. Yeah. Prochet fumbled the football. They took advantage. I mean,
that should have been game. Like we talked about the Gus Edwards. The biggest, just the way the game went is Prochet fumbles. And then it wasn't like the Ravens went in and boom, smashed it in, touchdown. It was 3 plays, don't convert on third down. Browns got a penalty. Okay, it's first down.
Yeah.
2 plays, can't get anything. Lamar throws a pick because there's a holding in the end zone. Okay, 1 yard line, get it to the one again, touchdown. And it was just like, even when the Browns were gifting the Ravens opportunities, the Ravens were like, don't really, like, we'll kick a field goal. And throughout the game, it wasn't even there. There was the punt that the Browns then had too many men on the field. Then the Ravens end up going for it, getting it, and continuing the drive. And there were just so many moments where the Ravens were handed something by the Cleveland Browns. And for them to lose that game, I think is what makes it sting. Because going into the game, I thought there was a good chance we lost. I thought with how good the Browns were playing defensively, it's an AFC North division game. It's going to be close. So if it was 2 just teams going, heavyweight boxers throwing punches, it would have been whatever. But it was the way we lost. It was we were in complete and total control for the entire game. The Ravens trailed officially for 0 minutes and 0.00 seconds in the game.
What's that? It's exactly right, Brad. I think you have the stat on graphic of right here.
It's up right now. Yeah. So, this is an incredible statistic from the NFL. The first 10 games of the season, the last 40 seasons. So essentially, since the merger, the Ravens are in there, and all of those teams, as you can see, their records were 10-0, and the Ravens here are 7-3. So it's just kind of like, and you look back at those 3 losses, and they very easily could have been wins had they figured out how to close out the game. And so that's just been the problem leading up to right now in week 10. And honestly, we we come up on Thursday night, and it's going to be a hell of a game, especially since the Bengals lost in a similar dramatic fashion, another walk-off kick, if you will, to lose to the Houston Texans. Now, the other guy on the other side of the ball there is CJ Stroud as a potential MVP candidate. But nevertheless, Joe Burrow lost his game. So I think that you have an angry Bengals team, you have an angry Ravens team. They're both a little banged up. It's going to be who's. I think it could come down to who can close the game out. And right now, I don't have a whole lot of confidence. If we don't blow out the Bengals on Thursday, I'm going to be worried all the way up until the clock reads 0.
Yeah, I think that we're just saying right now the Ravens are as a fan, it just felt yesterday as dominant the first half was, and you look up and go, man, it's 17-9, right, at the half.
That's 24-9.
And then it was 20, but even at the half, though, it felt like this game wasn't competitive.
Yeah.
Brad, you brought up the stat about the Ravens trailing the time that happened. I wanted to bring up one more. Jake Schroeder, who covers the Browns for ESPN, the Browns trailed for 59 minutes and 20 seconds on Sunday. No NFL team this millennium has won while trailing for that long in a game, per ESPN stats and info. The Browns literally trailed for the whole game. Basically, they're factoring in, okay, it was scoreless, and then Kyle Hamilton had that pick 6. So that was 40 seconds into the game. And then they took the lead at the very end when the clock hit 0. So you can't make it up. That number, man. That's just
ain't it fun being a
again,
Ravens fan?
That's a tough loss in the moment, right? But maybe one that we needed down the stretch. And I kind of felt this way earlier in the year. Like, we lost, and I was like, we're not really a 6-1, 5-1 team. Like we shouldn't have that record.
Mhm.
And maybe that is true right now, and maybe that helps propel us on a short week to beat a hungry Bengals team.